Hi, I'm Matt Vanacoro from Ask.Audio magazine, and today we're here with Jennifer from Akai. She's going to show us all about the brand new Akai Advance MIDI controller. Pretty cool MIDI controller with a lot of tricks up its sleeve, right?
Absolutely. More than a MIDI controller. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
All right, let's check it out.
So this is the Akai Advance series keyboards, and it comes with a piece of software called VIP for Virtual Instrument Player. And really, what this keyboard series is giving you the ability, giving musicians and producers the ability to get much easier access and control over all the different patches from all the different virtual instruments in their system. Because we've had probably 10 years of development of virtual instruments at this point, and it's not uncommon for people to have maybe 25, 50 plugins, and each one of those has a couple hundred or even 1,000 presets, and so how do you get access to 50,000 presets in your sound arsenal? And so that's where this all comes together here. So the keyboard itself is what we could sometimes call a smart controller, meaning it can operate as a standard MIDI controller. But if you launch the VIP software, it says, oh, you've got VIP launched, and now it gives you access to all your different plugins on your system and allows you to play them and control them. So if you look up here at the software, you can see if I go in the plugin manager, you can scan, and it'll scan all the different VSTs you have on your system. And the key here is that it will grab any VST that you have, not just from one manufacturer. This will find any manufacturer's VST. So you see in here, I've got stuff from NI, I've got stuff from Sonovox, Native Instruments, Air Music Tech, Arturia, Omnisphere. It really works with any VST plugin. And when you say OK after you've scanned, it's going to start an importing process the first time you launch the software, and it's going to pull in all the different presets from all your different plugins. And it throws them into this database here. And now, once you've got that all set up, now you can go in there and search for the kind of sounds that you want to work with. And so you can do it the old-fashioned way. You can pull up a plugin, like I've got Loom here, and I can say, okay, here are my Loom patches, and now I can start selecting them, and I can very quickly move between them. But we're trying to sort of get away from that and get to a new paradigm where you start looking for sounds based on the kind of sound that you want. So, for example, I'll say, you know what, I need a bass sound. I want kind of a distorted bass, and I want something kind of analog sounding. And so you've selected those, and now it filters and presents to you all your analog distorted bass sounds, and again, from any plugin that you have on your system. And now there you go. Now you have them. Here's one from Absinthe, and here's one from Loom. Here's one from Massive. Here's one from Expand. And it's really that simple and that quick. And there's a lot of sophisticated stuff kind of happening in the background, because what I did there was I just instantiated 4 different plugins and grabbed 4 different patches, and then and then it sort of puts them away and then brings up the next one, and it does all this in a really smart way. And you can do all this kind of browsing from the keyboard itself. You have a 4.2-inch full color display here that gives you access to anything that you want to do in the VIP software. So once you've got your patch selected, now you want to control it. You want to get access to all the different automation and VST parameters, and you want to be able to play around with them. So you go into control mode, and here you have access to 4 banks of knobs, 4 banks of buttons, and 4 banks of pads. And we've done a lot of auto mapping for you. So for the most part, you can just get in there and start playing. And just start turning knobs, and and everything's your sound's going to start changing. But if you want to customize this, you can. From here, from the software, you can go into a learn mode and say, okay, I really want this knob right here to control, this parameter right here, and it'll just assign, your controller parameters that easy. You can also do that kind of controller assignment from the keyboard itself. You just say, enter controller edit, and you say, yeah, this knob right here, I really want that to control this particular VST parameter, and that's it, and now it'll control that. So again, we've gone through over 300 of the most popular plugins on the market, and our sound designers spent many hours really working at, this plugin really wants these parameters, right here. But for those of you, obviously, who want to customize your experience, you can do that super easily. The other thing I wanted to mention here is that, in addition to just making things a lot easier and quicker to get access to all your patches, we wanted to be able to kind of take it beyond that and give you the ability to do things that you can't really do inside of a DAW, or at least you can't do very easily without lots and lots and lots of tweaking. And one of those is the ability to layer. So we've got a multi-mode here that allows you to layer or split across the keyboard up to 8 different patches, and again, from any plugin. So I'm still here with my distorted analog basses, and now I've got an expand bass on here, and I can say, oh, you know what, I'm going to load this patch over here, and now I've got both patches layered. And I say, oh, okay, that's cool, but I want something even more than that, so now I grab an absinthe patch, and I throw that on there. And now it's getting even bigger, and you can do things like, you can do things like panning. You can pan these things. You can transpose. You can say, okay, I want this to be, 12 semitones up. You can do things like change the key range. You say, okay, I want this one to go from here, and this one to go, I want my high key to go here. So you have complete control over, how you want to layer these things up. So it's very quick, very fast, very fun way to create really huge patches. And again, you can do all this from the keyboard. But so now if you go into multi on the keyboard, your controllers now become a set of performance controls. So now your knobs are controlling volume. Your pads now become mutes. And you can do panning from here. You can solo from here. So now you have real-time control over whatever you layer up into your multi. Some people picked up pretty quickly that you could also use this as a way of sort of preloading patches that are really large, such as piano patches in libraries or orchestral libraries that they take sometimes 15, 20 seconds to load. You can actually preload those things into a multi, and now you have instant access to them just by using your mute and layer select pads. So that's really great. We have some other performance stuff in here, like set lists, where you can create a set list like, this first set or second set, and then you can load your patches in there and quickly select them if you're at a gig. And then there's some things specific to using it in a studio. So the VIP itself, it'll run as a standalone, and which is nice because maybe you don't want to run a big fancy DAW at your gig. You can just use it like this. But for studio use, it also runs as a plugin. So it'll run as an AU, a VST, or an AAX plugin inside of Logic and Pro Tools and all that. And when you load it up into a DAW, you can do anything that you might do with a normal plugin. So you can do full automation and select patches and everything like that. You can even record your multis. So you can record a multi-performance, where your pad mutes and buttons and knobs now all become VST parameters. It's very powerful, but we really worked hard to make it easy too. So for the musician who just is, doing general business kind of work, just get out there and play it.
What happens if you have a plugin that you guys haven't captured all the metadata for?
Mm-hmm. So there's some smarts in the software to where if we haven't done one of these plugin maps, it doesn't find the associated plugin map. It'll automatically try to auto tag all of the presets, and it does that by looking at the name. If it sees that bass is in the name, it'll tag it as a bass and that kind of thing. And then it'll also grab all your VST parameters. It'll grab like the first 64 VST parameters and then just lay them out. So it'll put something in there, but you may want to go back after the fact and tweak it up a little bit. Now there are some plugins that don't like to what we call publish their presets, because they're not following the VST spec very perfectly. So there are some cases where you might pull in a plugin and you've got to actually go through and import the individual presets into the database. But we make that pretty simple. You have a download button here where you can just select a patch. And you can do this with your user patches too. You select something here, and then you just click this download button, and it'll load it into the database.
And that works for something custom you make. So if I open an FMA patch, I tweak the resonance, the cutoff.
Yeah.
I can save that tweaked patch into the VIP, not just into FMA, but into VIP.
Yeah, exactly. And you do that through this little download button right there.
Curious, like say Logic, who builds all their own internal plugins, does this work on those also, or just?
No, it doesn't. You mean like the
S2 or Sculpture?
Yeah, because those are very specific to Logic, and they're AU, and they're not really normal VST.
Yeah.
So we don't really touch those. Yeah.
They're really not VST.
Yeah. But so we're not really looking at those.
I was just curious.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's all right.
The knobs at the top, so you have them controlling basically one VST parameter at a time?
Yeah.
Is there any way to add like a macro function where they can control more than one?
Not in version 1.
But that's something that you could conceivably add down the road, possibly.
Definitely. In fact, we've already got it in our heads and kind of loosely spec'd out how we might want to approach it. It gets a little bit tricky, which is why we want to think it through before we do it, because again, you're working with any virtual instrument that's out there. Yeah. So now people are going to want to take this parameter from this plugin and this parameter from this plugin and create a macro of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now how does that interact with the rest of the software? Right. So
you're
it's
going to want to process it too, so that they're
Is
not.
it just me, or does it instantiate those plugins like extremely fast? It seemed that it booted them up faster than loading them on their own in a DAW, for example.
It's real quick. Let me see if I can. I have my basses here, but let me see if I can pull up something else like. some, let's see if I can get some pads or something in here. Yeah, here's some hybrid loom. Yeah, it is very quick. It has a pretty sophisticated plugin caching system.
Okay.
And
so you just switch between plugins right there?
I just switch between plugins.
It instantiated every time you move down?
Well, it instantiates it if you haven't instantiated it recently.
Yeah.
And if you have instantiated it recently, it knows and it caches, that plugin, and it does it in a pretty sort of smart way. And in fact, that turns out to be the way we got that working is great, because you notice here now I can play this hybrid patch, and now I can switch to a loom patch, and now my hybrid patch is still playing, and now I've got loom going now. Now I can go and, all right, I'm going to select a massive patch. So you can layer and layer and layer and keep going, and I love that, because it's because now it's a real instrument now. You know what I mean? Like you really it's talking back to you, and so it's great. It's great. That's a great feature.
When you load it up as a plugin in a DAW,
Yeah.
does it instantiate all the plugins as standalones?
And this, you load this in as a and each track that you instantiate this in becomes a new instantiation. So you can do things like have a multi of 8 plugins on track 1 in your DAW, and then you can have another multi of 8 plugins on track 2 of your DAW.
And those plugins would be outside of the DAW, because each one of them would be as a standalone?
It's not, well, they're
Doesn't
not,
quite work.
it's not so much a standalone, but it's running, a separate process or a separate instantiation of that plugin, yeah. It would be the same as, if you loaded up 8 plugins in a multi and put that inside your DAW, that would be equivalent to taking 8 tracks with 8 different plugins on each thing.
Is it multi-CPU aware?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Because
Yeah.
usually in a DAW, I know Logic works, everything on one track goes to one core. Like that's, So when you're loading this up on its own, if you load up 4 different instruments, you're avoiding that problem.
Right.
See,
Yeah,
very
it supports multi-core stuff, and yeah, very good. There's a nice arpeggiator in here too. Let me get back to some sort of bass sound. So I think I mentioned that this will run as a regular controller as well. So if you don't have VIP open, or if you do, you can just use this as a regular MIDI controller. And in fact, there's a little side tangent to that. You can do some, let me get to something that's got some, so when I was in control mode before, I was showing you that, these knobs, these controllers are mapped directly to VST parameters, okay? So it's not going through a MIDI CC, tying it together that way. But, you may want to still have some of your controllers, mapped to a CC to do things like control, your effects in a DAW or, what have you. And you can do that. You can actually go in here and say, you know what, I want this knob to not be a VST knob, but I want it to be a MIDI CC knob. And now you see it switched to this sort of blue-green color mode. And now you can go in there and you can say, I want that to be, CC whatever, CC 14, because you have an effect parameter or something assigned to CC 14, or maybe you're controlling an external synth, that way. So it's got this nice sort of hybrid functionality.
Looks like you're programming that on the keyboard too, and
Yeah.
not in the software, which is pretty old school. I like that.
Yeah, we're kind of, we designed this so that you can just really put your monitor away, your computer away. You can, I think there's some software out there now where you can actually load it up and it never puts it to sleep, even if you close your laptop.
Yeah.
But the idea being that you can really do everything, from here. And it is that way, from 99% of the software. There's a couple things we don't allow you to do from the keyboard directly, like tagging your presets, a couple sort of utilitarian kind of things. But for the most part, you can do everything directly from here. But yeah, I was talking about the arpeggiator. So you can, it's got this onboard arpeggiator, and you can turn this thing on, and you've got time division buttons. I think I've got like a mono patch or something. Find something. You've got all these different, so you can change note length and time division, swing, your range. But it's also got a bunch of different patterns in here. So it's a little smarter than your average arpeggiator. You've got these patterns in here, and so we put some patterns in so you can do like guitar kind of strumming or orchestral kinds of patterns, and then a couple of crazy things like I think I've showed this before in some of my video interviews, so I hope I'm not repeating myself too much. But this is you got some crazy stuff in here like that. So it's pretty fun arpeggiator. And it's nice because, again, you can use that arpeggiator, with any of your plugins. So if you've got a plugin that you really like, doesn't have its own built-in arpeggiator, you can control everything from here. And it does actually write those notes out as individual notes in a DAW. So the signal chain is, set up to where you can get in there and edit them after the fact.
Yeah, it's nice having that MIDI data on that end rather than that.
Right.
What about beat repeat?
Beat repeat, what do you mean?
Or no repeat?
No repeat.
No repeat, yeah. So, we've got the MPC pads on here. And in fact, I have note repeat on. So you have these, full RGB pads on here, just like the MPC pads, and you can do note repeat on them, and you can do full level, and you can assign these pads to different note numbers, and all that sort of thing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.